Guys, we're here with David Packouz, and I'm going to be asking him questions that I wish other people had asked him in other interviews. He had such an incredible interview with Soft White Underbelly about a year ago. Out of all the 10 that I watched of him getting interviewed, that was my favorite one. It was almost no questions, just David unfiltered, telling the whole entire story. Phenomenal interview. So go and watch that if you guys want to hear the whole entire backstory. I have different questions because what David has done is built some incredible things since that story. And he's reinvented himself multiple times by inventing the BeatBuddy. He also has now launched an academy that I'm super interested in hearing about because of the way that he is now making sure his students are successful, by making sure he's tied into the finance arm. There are so many cool things that this guy has done in his life, but also a lot of crap he's been through. So I want to start with that question first. So we all know Ephraim is a lunatic, like an absolute freaking lunatic. And the way that you're actually somewhat polite when you describe him, you don't bash him too much other than you just kind of tell it how it is. I was always super curious about what were the conversations with Ephraim like behind closed doors? Because you've got to go through the story very quick when you're on podcasts.
Sure.
But I never hear like, what were the private conversations with him like? Was he ever reasonable? Was he always illogical? Was everything he asked you or did with you, was it always greed-based? Or did this guy actually have some redeeming characteristics to him?
Yeah, I mean, he had a few redeeming characteristics. I'll be the first person to say that one of his greatest redeeming characteristic was his work ethic. He worked his ass off, you know, like he was very successful, but he worked very hard to get there. You know, he wasn't lucky. I mean, he was lucky as well. It could have been a lot worse for him, considering the things he did. But he really, really worked hard, and he worked hard to an unhealthy extent, in my opinion. I mean, his pattern was he would like not sleep for like 2-3 days, you know, like, or sleep very, very minimally. And then he would crash for a few days. So he would be he's like bipolar, kind of, maybe really bipolar, you know, he was like on off a lot. And he managed to make that work for him. Like he managed to get a lot done in his manic phase before he would crash into his depressive phase. But it definitely wasn't healthy for him. And it's not something that I would recommend anyone do. I think it's you'll be much more successful long-term if you can work out a healthy schedule and cycle for your daily work.
Yeah, so your guys' private life, you know, at some point when you start a partnership with somebody that's brand new, a lot of our people follow us, are business owners, aspiring business owners, getting into partnerships, getting out of partnerships. They might have been burned by partners 15, 20 times, whatever. My favorite part of your story is how this guy burned you, but you got out when he tried to screw you over and he said, how about 0%?
Right.
And you're like, how about F you, I'm out, right? The partnership you had with him, I'm sure at some point felt like it would persist. It would go on for a long time because money was coming in, contracts were coming in. Even, let's talk about those good times. When you guys were having good moments together, what was that relationship like with that partner? Was it healthy or was it always chaotic?
Definitely chaotic, but he, you know, another positive attribute I could say about him is that he's actually very witty and he's very funny. And, you know, always joking around, makes people laugh. Some of his jokes make people uncomfortable too, but, you know, but he's just that kind of humor. So he is very, very entertaining to be around. And it's funny because, like, we have some mutual friends still. And the people who are still friends with him are the ones who never got into business with him. Yeah. You know, and I have a few friends that we grew up with together who are still on good terms with him. They're not like super close to him, but they're on good terms with him. They still see him once in a while. And they knew from the beginning, they're like, you know, if one of my friends, he told me, he's like, yeah, I told Ephraim, because Ephraim always tried to get everyone to work with him, right? And my friend, our mutual friend, you know, he was like, he told me that he told Ephraim, he's like, listen, if you want us to remain friends, we're not going to work together. And Ephraim, of course, would not take that for an answer. He's like, oh, come on, of course we could still be friends. But
you didn't
knew.
see it that way. Like when you, and I think maybe it's because at the time you were doing massage therapy. Yeah. You were doing some other odd end stuff to make money. You're basically drop shipping at the time. Yeah. And so working with Ephraim was a massive opportunity for you.
Yeah, it was.
Were there any red flags in the very beginning of working with a personality like his, or was the opportunity so overshadowing of those character defects that you were like, I need an opportunity to change my life?
Well, I wouldn't say I only saw the red flags after we really got into the work and after like maybe 1 or 2 months of working with him. Then I started kind of seeing like how he would negotiate with people, how he would like think of like sneaky ways of, saying one thing, but like giving him an out to do another, And so I was like started to make me think, oh, this is how he operates. It made me a little bit nervous, and of course, I've said the story on 1 or 2 other podcasts, but like there was this one situation where I realized that he was like a sociopath, and where I'll tell the story when we were driving down like on the way back from a gun show in Orlando. And he was driving, and it was like dark without any street lights, and it was like one lane going each way. And just like a painted line in between, no like real divider, and there were no streetlights. So he had his brights on, and there were cars coming the other way. And I tell him, hey, you're supposed to like turn your lights down from the brights when the cars are coming the other way. And he's like, yeah, but I need to see the road. And I'm like, yeah, but you can make them crash. And he's like, yeah, but who cares? I need to see the road. And I'm like, yeah, but they can crash into us. And he's like, oh, good point. And then he turns it down.
Wow.
And when that happened, I was like, holy shit, this guy like physically can't empathize or care about other people.
It's his survival or nothing else.
Yeah, like it didn't even make sense to him. Like he didn't even understand why he should care. And like that to me, like I can understand someone being a dick and saying, yeah, I care more about me than them, whatever, but like, which is bad, right? But the fact that it didn't even make sense to him. I realized that his brain worked different. And that was a huge red flag.
Well, he's also, he definitely is on the very, very extreme side of the spectrum of lunatics, right?
Yeah.
But there are other people that are in that same spectrum.
Yeah.
That won't have as many red flags.
Right.
You've had multiple business ventures. Have you, the red flags you picked up from Ephraim, did that help you with future business partnerships and arrangements to protect yourself, or did you fall victim to more people like Ephraim in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest lessons that I learned, and this is like so cliche, but get everything in writing. Everyone always says that, and I learned it the very hard way because even with your best friends or who you think are your best friends at the time, and we were very close for a period there. He called me his best friend. I don't know if I ever considered him to be my best friend, but at least he said that I was his best friend.
Right.
And so like when we would, have conversations, it would be just, like 2 guys talking, and we'd come to an agreement. And I thought that would be the end of it. But then like a few months later, he would have trouble remembering. He thought that we agreed to something else. And I was very sure that we agreed to. Yeah,
I know the type. I've been in bad situations just like this, and that's where your story resonated with me so much. And our business audience, it's like they believe. I did the same thing. I have gotten in bad partnerships where the partnership went bad when money started coming in the door.
Exactly.
Like everything's fine when it's on a napkin.
Right. It's been, and
like
when they
here's
need
our
you.
idea, and they need you.
Yeah.
And then the second that contract, you guys get the Afghan contract, all of that stuff is happening. Money's rolling through the door. Everybody's happy. Shipments are going in. Planes are landing. Everything's going well. That's when he comes in and decides, how can I leverage David just a little bit more to try and take care of these Iraq contracts?
Right.
And then if he doesn't do what I want him to do, we're good on the Afghan stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to freaking leverage this guy out to do exactly what I want.
Right.
That I've ran into those guys over and over and over. You can see them a mile away, but it's so hard to resist it because when a guy like Ephraim shows you a bank account for 1.2 million or whatever million dollars, you're like, damn, bro, I got $10,000 in my account.
Right.
I need part of that money.
Right.
And it's hard to do that. So what would you have done different in the very beginning?
I definitely would have gotten everything in writing and tried
Would he have allowed that though?
That's a good question. I don't know because I didn't try, but it definitely would have been worth to try. And I think just the process of trying would have put me in a better situation. Like if he had said no in the beginning, at least I would have known earlier on what his true intentions were. So, we did have a handwritten contract eventually when he tried to renegotiate me for the 3rd time. I'm like, okay, we're putting this in writing. Yeah. And we did sign a handwritten contract between us, which mysteriously disappeared a few days later, while my scanner was broken, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I was planning on getting that to a lawyer to type up and all that, and I should have done that for the first time we negotiated terms. Yeah, whether he would have signed it or not, I guess depends what the lawyer came up with.
He probably would have figured out another way to screw you anyway.
Probably,
I mean, with the $5 million he ended up owing you,
Yeah.
and you ended up getting paid out something like $300,000 after fighting him.
Yeah.
And you finally just relented and go, dude, just give me the $300,000. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you had to continue to talk to this guy through court cases and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How was the relationship after you had walked away, received your $300,000, and now you had to be in conversations with him in terms of defending? Or did everything go through attorneys?
Everything went through attorneys.
Okay.
Yeah, after that. The last time I actually talked to him directly was in a deposition. So our attorneys were both present, and it was kind of like
that
formal.
over the $300,000?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the last time you had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
When you left, which thank God you did.
Yeah, sure.
Like when you really think about how lucky you got that you said you stood on your morals and you said, dude, I'm not going to be around this. I'm getting the hell out of here. Do you feel like that helped you avoid, real prison time?
It definitely could have. I think that, so originally the government at least they told me that they were not planning on charging me in the first place because I had left months before the whole thing went down.
And because you guys were also, so before they even went to charge you, you ended up getting a really low sentence because of how honest you were. But you're saying that they originally weren't even going to charge you?
They told me that they weren't going to charge me. And the only reason they charged me at all was because the New York Times published a front page article with my mugshot on the front page, and then there was just too much political heat. And they told me, hey, we told you we weren't going to charge you, but we're very sorry. There's just too much political pressure, and we need to, charge you with something. So they did it for appearance's sake, but they told me we're going to charge you. We're going to make sure we're going to do our best to have the judge give you as low of a sentence as possible, but we have to charge you. So now I'm a convicted felon. So what can you do?
Yeah. Well, the guy that surprised me actually the most was your investor.
Right.
Like him going and fighting that, and then he ended up going to prison for 4 years? 4 years,
yeah. Yeah. In his 60s. So.
Oh, my gosh. So he's out, obviously.
Yeah, he's out now, yeah.
What's he up to?
Actually just talked to him last week.
Oh, that's cool. What's he up to?
He's still trying to sue Ephraim for the money he owes him.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's the tough thing, too, is like what you've done well is you've gone on and you've reinvented yourself. And you look at this in the past and you go, look, I'm going to use this as a story to leverage myself into other opportunities. Other people, no offense to, his name's Ralph, I think.
Ralph, yeah.
The investor. Ralph, brother, you are wasting valuable time you have on this earth. Go create new things.
Right.
And a guy like Ralph is an investor. Like he could go get himself into other deals. There's other people I'm sure he could advise and get himself into other business stuff.
Yeah.
For every minute he's going after Ephraim, it's just a wasted, Ephraim's genius.
Yeah.
Like diabolically genius. I mean, even when he ended up getting caught at the end with the gun in his hand, he was using a subsidiary LLC or a fake LLC with his fake name and all that kind of stuff. He's probably still doing that crap.
Yeah. And Ralph knows this. Ralph knows that Ephraim has his money hidden overseas. But he's still, so Ralph didn't just lose the money that Ephraim had agreed to pay him. Ralph put in like $1.5 million of his own money.
So he not only lost his principal, he lost all the future.
Exactly. Yeah. So he lost the profit and the principal, and it really messed him up. So Ralph has a real chip on his shoulder, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, so you had a kid through all of this.
Yes.
You have one child?
I have one daughter, yeah.
And you ever have conversations with your daughter about all this stuff?
So my daughter actually just turned 18 like a few weeks ago. Blows my mind. But she only watched the movie like a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for the first time. And she originally she wasn't even interested in watching it at all. She's like an anime nerd, so she loves anime. And she told me, like I asked her, I'm like, what, you're like, not, there's a movie made about your dad. You're not interested in seeing it? And she's like, yeah, it doesn't look like my kind of movie.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow.
I mean, she was born during all of this.
Yeah, she was.
She was already born by the time you had started working with Ephraim.
Yeah.
And so where was she living? When you were on house arrest, was she with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And she wasn't aware of really what was going on?
No, she was a baby back then, yeah.
Lucky you, man. That's so great.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the people out there that are starting businesses, I want to headway into talking about your guys' academy. I'm actually really excited about that conversation. Most people are like, oh, education. You actually made a reference to this on one of your podcasts saying people will say to you, hey, David, if you're so good at the thing, why would you teach the thing? I want to get into that in a minute.
Sure.
But any advice you would have for people that are thinking about getting into partnerships, anything that you took from all your years of experience, because not only did you get screwed over by Ephraim, you also have been screwed over in other situations, like a lot of us have, where you go, okay, I'm going to go start the BeatBuddy. And you go hire outside people to help you engineer, craft it, production, all that kind of stuff. People take your money, they make false promises, they don't do the thing. We've all been there.
Sure.
Any lessons that you could give our audience, any stories that you're like, look, this is now how I protect myself. This is now what I do. Here's some steps I take. Anything like that you could share with our audience?
Well, I mean, as I said before, definitely get everything in writing and try to figure out all the ways things can go wrong and try to address those in advance. Because if you don't, then everyone ends up with a different opinion at the end when things hit the fan. So you try to look at, if this goes wrong, what are we going to do? If that goes wrong, what are we going to do? And just sign everything. And also, before you get into business with anyone, try to get as many references as you can and talk to other people who've been in business with this person and see what that experience was like, because most likely the way they treat other people is going to be the way they treat you. And it doesn't matter whether you're supposed to be friends or you grew up together. I think it's just like an innate personal thing. If someone screws over other people, they're probably going to screw over you.
Yeah, what's interesting too is the people that screw you over, they go home to their house, their wife, their spouse, their whoever, and they tell that person that you screwed them.
Right, of course. They have to justify it somehow.
It's the craziest thing on the planet. And so people go, no, what are you talking about? I'm the one that did the work. I'm the one that got the contract. I'm the one that No, well, that's not what their family thinks.
Oh, yeah.
Their family, their wife thinks you're the piece of shit.
Sure. Oh, I know that Ephraim has said that about me. I mean, he wrote his own book where he, talks a whole bunch of shit about me. He wrote a book called Once a Gun Runner, which is the line he said to the undercover ATF agent before he got arrested.
Once a gun runner, always a gun runner.
Exactly.
Handcuffs. Boom, sucker. I've had Ephraims in my life, and I've lost millions of dollars from it. And I feel like those were some of the greatest lessons I could have ever learned from. Yeah. Sadly, other people go into abysmal, depression. Other people like yourself go and reinvent themselves.
Right.
So, again, guys, Soft White Underbelly, one of the greatest interviews I've seen from David, unfiltered, almost no questions. It's just straight storytelling. Go and watch that, and definitely feel free to come back here. But you decide, I got to build stuff.
Yeah.
I got to build things that are exciting. I'm actually giving back to the world. I'm actually providing value in return for the money I'm getting. Before I get to that and where you're at, there was a moment before you started working with Ephraim where you probably were like, I need more in my life. And then within 6 months, all of a sudden you're making millions of dollars. Like, it is so crazy when you decide to go down a path and you commit to that path, how fast things can turn around.
Absolutely.
Right? So for you, when you went down, let's say BeatBuddy, how long did it take? You came up with the idea. How long did it take for you to build that, distribute that, see a profit, and actually start getting paid on that?
So it was longer than I thought that it would, actually. Everything that I've done has always taken me longer than I initially thought it would. And it partially my fault. So like with BeatBuddy, I hired, as you alluded to earlier, I hired a engineer who didn't do a good job, like wasted 9 months of my time. I realized he's never going to get this done. I had to fire him and find someone else.
That's a tough thing. There's a lesson there. A lot of people will persist in that 9 months. You probably, looking back, should have fired the guy in 9 days.
Yeah, definitely at the 3 month mark for sure.
And why? And why didn't you? Was it one of those things like, I already have sunken cost? Why would I fire the guy now? I'm going to lose this 3 months.
Well, because he kept on stringing me along, and I had never developed a product.
Were you paying him monthly? Were you paying him hourly? Like, how was he being incentivized financially at the time?
So he was being paid by milestones. So he achieved the first milestone, which was really the simplest one of just making a computer render of the product, and anyone can do that. any industrial designer could, work that up. It doesn't take much engineering skills. And then he sent me, and then the second milestone, he sent me like a diagram of the PCB boards, and I'm not an electrical engineer, so I couldn't. Yeah, exactly. What do I know? I'm like, okay, it looks like he's doing something, right? But then, the next step was to actually make a functional prototype, and that's to actually have something physical that works. You're going to know whether it works or it doesn't. And he was like, oh, I just need a few more months. And like he was supposed to get it to me at like the 3-month mark. And then it didn't happen at the 6-month mark. And he's like, there's a little bit more complicated, but I definitely could do it. Then at the 9-month mark, you gave me another delay. And I'm like, okay, that's it. You're triple over the time that originally was going to be.
Good for you though, man.
We've got to cut it off at some point.
I'm sure you've seen people that will persist for years on something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
So you fire this guy, you then go and hire another person.
Yes, I hired a Canadian engineering team. And they were really, really good. And they were pretty quick about it. It took them about 6 months to have a functional prototype and 9 months to work out all the bugs.
Okay.
So which was actually really good. And in looking back at it, I'm extra impressed because the other products I've developed have taken me way longer than that. And I've started from, with a lot more money than I did back then.
I mean, you were on house arrest when you came up with the idea. So it's not like you could go out there and make extraordinary types of cash to go invest in this thing. How did you fund the BeatBuddy originally? Did you get investors?
That's a great question. So originally, the engineering quote I got from the Canadian engineering team was $130,000 to do just the engineering, not any production or anything like that.
No prototype.
No prototypes.
Damn.
Yeah. The prototypes were extra. It's actually a few $1,000s a prototype. And because it's all custom.
$130,000. Damn, I was not expecting that number. That's larger than I would expect.
Yeah. Well, these days it seems small. But
I guess I mean, you're looking what was that? 2014.
Yeah.
So you're looking 11 years ago. That's probably $250,000 to $300,000 in today's money. Actually.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And I only actually had $30,000 to my name at the time that I had. I went back to school because there was like a 3-year period, from when I left the arms dealing business and when I went and when I got sentenced. And so I had to go back I went back to school. I actually started doing massage therapy again because I wasn't allowed to do the government contracting stuff
Were you having people come to your house?
No, I was on location. Yeah, I was on location. Yeah. And so I'd saved up around $30,000. So I didn't have $130,000. And I told the sales guy at the engineering firm, like, hey, I only have like $30,000, but I am planning, once I get a functional prototype, I'm planning to do a crowdfunding campaign to raise the rest of the money. And I'm pretty sure the crowdfunding campaign will do pretty well. And so they came back to me and they're like, look, we really want to make this product because most of the other projects that we've worked on have been for like large corporations or government institutions, stuff like infrastructure, electrical engineering things. No, we've never made a consumer product. And we want to get into this space. And we think that this is a really cool product and it would be a great showcase of our engineering capabilities.
This thing of them pitching you would not have happened without you asking the gosh dang question of, hey, I need help to get this thing done.
Yes, no, of course, they wouldn't have told me that.
Like, I've followed you for a couple of years. Last year, I listened to a bunch of your interviews. And one thing I can say about you is you're not an excuse guy. I've never heard you have an excuse. Like, you're on house arrest.
Right.
You go make shit happen.
Right.
You go save $30,000 during all this chaos.
Right.
And instead of taking that $30,000, most people just put in their savings account and just cower and go, life isn't meant for me.
Right.
You go, I'm going to spend every last dollar I have.
Right.
And not only am I going to spend every last dollar I have, I'm going to give them that $30,000. I'm going to ask these guys to essentially finance me.
Yes.
Because that's what they did.
Yes, they did.
They became your engineering firm / finance department.
Correct. Yeah. I was pretty surprised that they agreed to it too.
You asked them. It's not like they came to you. It sounds like, right?
Yeah. So they said that they really wanted to do it because their lead engineer and the founder of their company is a drummer. And he told me, their founder, he told me, he's like, I'm a drummer and all my musician friends are always asking me to jam with them. And I don't have time because I'm running an engineering company. And I know that they would love this product. So I know this is going to be successful. So I feel comfortable financing this. And so the deal we made was that I gave him my 30 grand up front, which was every penny I had, and that they would give me a working prototype, but hold the engineering files in reserve until I pay them the rest of the engineering fee. And so I took the prototypes, made a crowdfunding campaign, and that raised 350 grand in a month. So I was able to pay them off and start manufacturing.
Did they charge an inflated amount of money for the engineering, like a finance fee or anything like that?
They didn't charge me any extra money.
Gosh, damn, bro.
Yeah.
These guys are awesome.
Yeah. But since then I've spent quite a few $1 million with them,
of course.
With other products. So it was a great investment for them.
Shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go develop that. It takes a couple of years to get to a point where you're actually distributing this and actually turning a profit.
Correct.
During this whole entire time, you're doing massage therapy.
I did massage therapy up to the point of the crowdfunding campaign.
Okay.
Once the crowdfunding campaign,
like, I'm done.
I'm like, I have 350 grand at the bank.
Yes.
I can pay my rent next month, and I don't have to worry about it. So
incredible.
And then I just went full time on Singular Sound, my company, to make the BeatBuddy and our other products.
I've seen the BeatBuddy.
Yeah.
Like I told my team today, I was like, hey, the guy that invented BeatBuddy is coming in there. Are you serious?
Oh, wow. People have heard of it.
Of course they have, bro. Okay, so you then with I think it was your brother.
Yes.
You guys went and developed a water pick, essentially. Yes. And that took you guys like 5 years to develop.
It did. So we created a product called InstaFloss. And the difference between that and the water pick is a single water jet that you have to like trace your gum line, top, bottom, and on the inside, which is difficult. And it needs to be at a 90-degree angle to the gum line to be good, because if you go into the gum line, it irritates the gum.
Yours guys has 7.
So we have 12 water jets.
12, damn.
Yeah, and actually I brought the head just so people can see what I'm talking about.
You have 12 jets. So basically, you go across your mouth in like 5, 6, 7 seconds.
It's supposed to be 10 seconds. So this is it.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's got 12 jets. It's 3 on each quadrant.
Go
exactly
around.
like that.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So that's the head. This is pretty much our innovation. Instead of a single water jet that you have to point at your gum line, you just bite into it. And then,
oh my gosh, that's so great.
Okay. And that's it. And it does behind the teeth, top, bottom, front, of course.
And you guys are distributing that
and
now.
This is a water a drain so that everything goes neatly into the sink and it doesn't make a mess.
Genius.
Yeah, thank you.
I bet that part wasn't created until later when you're like,
it wasn't.
Damn, this thing's making a mess.
That's exactly right. You got to solve it. Yeah.
So this is now selling.
Yeah. Yes. Instafloss.com. You can check it out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you and your brother figured that out while smoking weed.
Yes. Well, we had the idea for it while smoking weed. We were smoking weed and we got the munchies, and we decided to eat some mango, because mango is great munchy food. It's delicious and juicy and sweet, but it gets all the fiber stuck in your teeth. And so we were flossing our teeth, and I was like complaining to him what a pain in the butt flossing was. And I tell him, I'm like, if we could invent a machine that could floss your teeth for you, everyone would want that. And he's like, oh, wow, yeah, that is definitely a mass market product, not like our music products, which is like a tiny segment of the population. We have to think of something. And then it took us about 3 years to get a functional prototype.
Why so long?
So the initial idea kind of gelled after a month or two. We tried a bunch of different things. I mean, we were looking into like robotic string devices, which didn't make sense. Eventually, we figured out the advanced water floss device, but then we had to like build it, and it really was like a Rubik's cube. Like you adjust one thing and you break another. Mm-hmm. So we needed more pressure, so we needed a bigger motor. So then we needed thicker like a water containment device so it doesn't leak, and a better way to connect one thing to another. Like glue wasn't working, so you need to go with screws, and then there's too much vibration, and then you need to work on the noise, and so it's just like you fix one thing and another thing breaks.
Why did you guys not quit?
Because we knew that if we solved, we knew it was solvable. Right, we knew that this was in theory gonna work. There was no reason not for it not to work.
This is what I'm saying about you. It's like there's a lot of people that have great ideas that will work. Mm-hmm. They just give up.
That's true. Yeah.
And your thing is like, well, yeah, I believe in it. Well, there's people that believe in their shit. They just don't follow through.
Right.
Like, where did you get this from? Is this something that you and all your siblings have, or is it something your parents instilled in you? Like, what do you have that, because it is literally, you know this, you now coach people as well.
Right.
Because you'll get people, I'm sure, that join your academy, and however incredible your course is, I'm sure there's people that watch it and then they don't do anything.
Oh, absolutely.
That's part of being an educator, right? That's just what happens. The same thing, people go to get a Harvard degree, pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe $1 million for an education, do nothing with it.
That's true.
So where the hell does that come from with you?
I don't know, honestly. I think it's more of a, I'm a very hopeful person. You know, I'm very optimistic, actually, and and I've heard people say this about entrepreneurs in general, the irrational optimism of the entrepreneur, because most businesses in general fail, right? And so if you are an entrepreneur starting a business, the odds are stacked against you. So just the fact that you are willing to go against the odds, I think in essence is, hey, I'm going to beat the odds. I'm going to do what, other people are failing, but that's not going to be me. And, you just got to hope for a better future and work towards it as much as you can.
By far, I would say that the attitude that you have all the way through the crap you've been through is more important than any idea you had for future products.
I agree.
Because
Absolutely.
I could have given you anything. I could have literally given you any idea, a pen with 17 different colors on it. I could have given you a different thing you would have figured it out.
Sure.
Like the fact that you didn't give up for 3 years on BeatBuddy, you didn't give up for 5 years on this other thing.
Yeah.
You're hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
You seem like a guy like me in the sense that your hobbies are creating new shit.
Yeah, I love it.
It's like you're not going, most people that are trying to get into business go, well, yeah, my 9 to 5 takes up all my time.
Right.
No, it doesn't. Like you're a massage therapist all during that time. Then in your after hours, you're creating new things.
Right.
It just seems like this is a hobby for you.
Yeah, I love it. It's exciting because like when I was creating the BeatBuddy as well as InstaFloss and my other products, the idea that this product might exist in the future got me excited because I was like, this would be so awesome if it existed, like so awesome to be able to jam at home and do a live show without needing a drummer or being able to floss in 10 seconds, that would be so cool. And I know that everyone else would think it's so cool and they would want this. So, there's no law of physics that says these things can't be built. It's not like I'm inventing some new science or, doing some, it's really just an engineering problem. You got to solve the Rubik's Cube. Right. And I know the Rubik's Cube can be solved. It's going to be difficult. It's going to take time, probably a lot more time than I thought initially, but it's solvable. I know that 100%. And if that's the case, then I keep on going. Now, if I'm working on a project where I run into something where I'm like, okay, I thought that, this technology, was there, but it's not, then I may reassess. I'm not saying I blindly follow every project, no matter what, to the end. You have to, I need to believe that it is possible to
So there
complete.
are things that you maybe had as ideas, but you're like, okay, this is not a good idea for us to continue down this road.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Any idea that comes to mind?
There are some ideas. Like a few years back was starting a live musical creation device that was working with AI to create music as you go, and you need a very low latency for it to sound like another musician playing with you. And the technology just isn't there yet.
Makes sense.
And I don't have the many tens of millions of dollars that would be needed for that. If I was Google, I might, take a swing at it, but I'm not. And so I don't have that kind of money to lose. So, I put that on, did some research into it, realized that it was a lot harder than it initially looked, and decided to put it on ice, at least until the underlying technology
Your most
evolves.
recent device, right, with the 12 jets.
Yes.
Do you worry that the Chinese or somebody else will just duplicate it and rip you off?
They already have.
Those sons of bitches.
Yeah, and they're actually not the Chinese. It's actually...
Don't tell me it's the Albanians, bro. They're
No, it's not the Albanian. That's not their style. The Albanians don't get into this kind of business, at least not yet. No, it was... so you ever see the As Seen on TV brand? That's an actual brand. That people think that's just a general thing. That's an actual brand. Owned by a family, actually an Indian immigrant family who's based in Miami. And they're very, very wealthy. They're multi-billionaires. And they've done many, many products over the past 30 years. and they came out with a product that is a very, very bad knockoff of the InstaFloss. It doesn't actually function. It just looks like it functions. Instead of like 12 water jets, they have 4. So it's like 1 jet for each quadrant, and that's not enough to get the entire space. And there isn't enough. They don't use enough pressure. Pretty much all the problems that we worked 5 years to solve, they were like, we're not going to solve it. We'll just make it crappier. And they beat us to market, actually.
That's the craziest thing. That you could have the greatest product, but if you're not first to market, you don't have the distribution in terms of marketing, et cetera, you're at a disadvantage.
Absolutely.
So how are you combating that?
Well, I mean, we definitely lost some first mover advantage with it, and they've also kind of poisoned the market a little bit because their product on Amazon has like 2-star rating because everyone returns it because it doesn't function, and I don't blame them for that. So it's probably not good for us, when people see people might associate us with them. Our strategy, besides suing them, and we do have patents, and that's a whole other rabbit hole that is a big pain in the butt to go through, having to go down the IP road. But our main focus is just to make an awesome product that speaks for itself. That's what we're going to do.
Love it.
We are making a product that works, that people love, and we firmly believe that it's going to speak for itself, and it's going to overcome the initial bad press that their product has given the idea.
Number one question I get every day is, how do I get everything done? I have 9 companies, 600 employees. We have customers all over the globe. We're doing fix and flips. We're doing buy and holds, apartments, RV parks, all of those things. Everybody wonders, how did I scale? How did I get to a higher level? And the answer is that, go high level. I use a CRM that allows all of my customers to come into one database. And instead of me hiring more employees to go and do all the follow-up, Go High Level has systems and automations that does all of that for me. So not only can I have my employees focus on higher end tasks, money-making tasks, Go High Level avoids all of the extra payroll. When you're brand new, having Go High Level is like having 5 different employees doing all the work for you just for a monthly fee. Go to gohighlevel.com/pace to learn how I'm using it, not only in my lending business, but my wholesale business, my fix and flip business. Literally, Go High Level controls the entire back end of all 9 of my companies. Go to gohighlevel.com/pace to learn more.
I love it. And that, I wouldn't say that would be your focus right now. It sounds like you guys are already at market. You've probably got a team.
Yeah.
You guys have gone through the invention process, all the arduous journey. So you're not as involved in that as much anymore. I would guess to say that you're probably spending more time in War Dogs Academy, right?
So I'm doing a lot in War Dogs Academy. Well, as far as the InstaFloss goes, we are currently working on the V2 device. So we have right now it's a desktop device, and we're working on a portable version. And so that's still probably about a year out. So we are gonna, because that's a whole other segment of the market. So there's still plenty of work to be done there.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I am working quite a bit on War Dogs Academy now.
Okay, so War Dogs. Let's say I want to be a government contractor. Is there a top 3 things I should focus on as a government contractor in terms of product that I'm selling to the government that I could make the most money on right now? Lowest competition, lowest pain in the ass, highest profitability.
Right. So this is one of the first questions that people ask me is, what should I go for, right? And the answer for that is, it depends what you know, right? And depends on your current connections.
It's kind of like buying a business. A lot of people ask me, what kind of business should I buy? I'm like, if you were a pharmacist, go into medical stuff because you know your stuff. It's a core competency.
Yeah.
So same thing. If let's say I'm in, I owned a grocery store.
Yep.
And I already knew how to buy toilet paper on the cheap, or I knew how to buy those types of things. You would suggest going down that
because
route.
You have a connection for those things. You have knowledge of that industry, and that's going to save you a lot of initial trouble, right? Because anytime you try to sell anything, right, and try to source it, you have to go find all the suppliers, and then you figure out which are the good suppliers, which are competitive, which have good quality. Then you have to figure out the logistics, who are the good logistics company for this particular thing. And different products have different details about the kind of logistics you need. Like if you need refrigerated trucking or hazardous trucking, and special insurance for this, like explosives and things like that. There's a lot of details that go into each particular industry that you really only learn by entering that industry.
Right.
So if you're already in any industry, then you're already at an advantage.
So it doesn't matter if even if I'm an employee at a company.
Yeah.
I work at that company doing something. I know the people. I know how it's being ran. I'm inside of it. Doesn't mean you have to be the owner of a company to understand how to do these things. You can still be in your 9-to-5 job and do government contracting on the side.
Absolutely. You can start your own company and just bid on
if
on
somebody's
government
willing to
contracts.
work, let's say 4 or 5 hours a day, right? You're reading the bids. Because I think in an interview I watched like 6 months ago with you, it was something along the lines of 20 to 30,000 new contracts.
30,000, yeah. Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
That's insanity.
It is.
Are they getting filled?
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine so. I don't know what the rate of the non-filled contracts are, but yeah.
The opportunity there is insane.
Insane. Yeah. $7 trillion a year the federal government spends in total.
Okay, so if I'm willing to work 2-3 hours a day, I'm a 20 to 30-year-old guy, and I'm like, I got to change something about my life. I jump into War Dogs Academy. I go through the course. I pick kind of a lane. I dabble a little bit, kind of figure out where I want to go. If I'm willing to put in 2, 3, 4 hours a day in my after hours, after my 9-to-5 job, is it reasonable to say I could make $300,000-$400,000 a year as net profit in my pocket if I'm willing to work my guts out?
Absolutely. I mean, you could make millions. We actually just had one of our students win a $2.2 million contract after putting about 5 months in.
Okay, cool.
Of work.
And what would you say his margin is on 2.1 million?
On that one, he's actually getting 40% margin.
Holy moly, 800 grand on just one contract.
On one contract.
Do you what kind of industry is he? What's he
He's
selling?
providing security services to like a military base, which you don't think they would need,
What
but they
the
actually use
freak?
it. Yeah, I know.
So is he arbitraging somebody else's security?
Absolutely. Well, he doesn't run a security company. He just subcontracted it.
Okay, this is so we're in real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, and we do this kind of stuff in real estate all the time, which is sellers in foreclosure. Okay, and let's not even do that. Let's make this really simple. Sellers in foreclosure. Check this out. So sellers in foreclosure, they're going to lose their house. We teach people to come to these sellers that are in foreclosure and go, "Hey, seller, I need to buy your house for $200,000." Cool. So they get a contract for $200,000. And then this contract, they buy for $200,000 on the South. They just sell the contract to people like me.
Right.
Wholesale, right? It's in real estate. It's so prevalent. It's thousands and thousands of these deals are going on every single month across the country. And so I see the value here. This person finds the deal, basically gets this under contract, sells the contract to people like me who can actually fulfill it.
Sure.
I take the property, I buy it, I go flip it, we make some money.
Sure.
People will look at that industry and go, well, why doesn't the foreclosure person just talk to you directly?
Right.
Well, first off, they don't know who the hell I am.
Right.
And I'm busy flipping houses. I don't have the time to go and work every single foreclosure lead.
Sure.
So similar question.
Right.
Why the hell doesn't the government just go and get their own security contractor? Why do they need to get some 22-year-old kid to arbitrage and make $800,000 on the thing?
Right.
Is there any logical way? I see this happen in every business.
Sure.
For the audience, like where's the value that person provides?
Well, so the way the government works is it's a bidding system, right? Everyone who is registered with the government is eligible to bid on these contracts. And that goes for the security company themselves or for a broker like one of our students who won this contract. Now, only about 2% of U.S. businesses are registered to do business with the federal government. So, yeah,
So you're basically having to dig through the 2%. Let's say I'm a broker. I come and work for you or I learn from you at War Dogs Academy. I become essentially what you would call a broker. And I'm going and finding, vetting, and getting estimates from multiple security companies in that 2%.
No. So the 2% of businesses who are registered with the federal government
Go
can
direct.
go direct.
Okay.
98% of businesses cannot go direct because they don't even know how to do it. Right?
They don't even know it's an opportunity.
They don't know it's an opportunity.
So these 2% are making a killing.
Absolutely.
A killing.
A killing.
And then the other 98% don't even know it's a thing. Like this, the securities company doesn't create, let's say that I had somebody hand me a card the other day. I was in Miami and somebody goes, hey, Pace, you speak on stage, you do all this stuff. I'm a security guy. And I work for a company that has 15 security officers. I'm thinking, okay, cool. I don't think that would ever be used for a government contract.
Right.
So I don't have that lens on when I'm walking around the world that is an opportunity.
Right.
Meanwhile, a student or a broker of yours meets that guy, gets that same card, that's an $800,000 profit for him.
Absolutely.
For me, it's a card I throw away.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So crazy. Okay, so the 98% of people or businesses in the United States are not registered to do business with the government. They really don't even look at it as an opportunity. They're probably launching their companies to do business in the private sector.
Yeah.
And so your brokers, their job is to go find those 98%, bid them down to an appropriate number so that they can create a margin.
Correct.
How does that company now, how are they now allowed to do business with the government? Does the broker give some sort of conduit, or does the government not need them to do anything specific?
So the only specific things they would need to do is if in security, for example, they may need to get like some background checks on the actual people doing the security services. So they would need, like a certain, if it's a military facility or a government facility in general, you need certain clearances to access the property. So the broker, the prime contractor, as they call them, right, the one who has the contract with the government, they need to make sure that their subcontractor, the people they're hiring, fulfill all the requirements that the government has in the contract, right? As long as the subcontractor does all that, they do the work, the government pays the prime contractor pays the subcontractor and collects the profit.
That blows my mind. Like, that blows my mind that the government will hire a securities team for securing their base.
Yeah, I know. I've always been surprised about that too.
Hell
Yeah.
Okay, so
because you would think they'd have their own security people and their own
pull somebody from the ranks, dude.
Yeah,
like, go
absolutely.
train them, but that's not what they do. That's not their core competency.
They're also, they do use their own people to do security in certain situations. I would say many, if not most situations, but they are short-staffed. Right, and when when they don't meet their recruitment goals, they need to fill up the gaps with the private sector. It's like Blackwater is the most famous security company example, right? They have a pretty bad reputation these days, but the reason Blackwater got multi-billion-dollar contracts with the federal government is because the Army and they were not able to meet their recruitment goals, so they needed extra help with their security. They hired, the State Department hired Blackwater to provide security for their diplomats. Now, could they have military people do it? Sure, absolutely, if they have those people available. But they didn't recruit enough people, so now they have to pay like 5 times more by hiring the private sector instead of using in-house their own security people.
Wow. So your students would be called the prime broker?
They would be called a prime contractor, yeah.
Prime contractor,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say most of your students are jumping into? What sector in fulfillment are they jumping into?
Actually, we've had a very wide range. So we had one guy do drones, another guy not like the huge drones,
right.
But like the government and the military is using more and more small drones for surveillance, for just patrols and stuff like that. So he sold them drones. Another guy sold them ice baths because the military commander wanted ice baths for his troops because he read that it was good for their recovery and stuff.
Wow.
So he sold them a whole bunch of ice baths. Another person actually sold them, this was my favorite, hypnotherapy services to help with PTSD.
Wow.
It's effective actually, and they put a contract out there for hypnotherapy services, and he won it, and he subcontracted it to a licensed hypnotherapist, and he's collecting a profit.
Okay, so I see a lot of educators. I'm an educator as well, and I feel like what I educate on, I'm like, it's such an amazing opportunity. I see other people educate on, I'm like, like it's not great. This honestly is super exciting because it's an endless amount of opportunity.
Endless, absolutely.
You don't have you might be fulfilling on drones today, security contracts in 6 months, whatever. Your ban is now lifted, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you go jump into doing this. Where would you focus your time?
I would focus, and we're actually looking into this.
Because this is you.
Yeah.
This is not the audience, right?
Right.
You specifically have skills in certain areas. So for you, where would you go?
So, and I'm actually starting to work on this. We're looking into selling the InstaFloss and our music equipment to the government. Because
I get the InstaFloss. Yeah. Tell me why the musical instrument.
The Army has a band. and they actually have quite an extensive music program. So it's something that and our products are really good for musicians, not just for performance, but like for practice. And so you get to be a much better musician when you use our products, and so we're looking into selling that.
So I watched an interview of you about a year ago, and you said same thing that we do. So students of ours a lot of times need financing on their houses. I make more money on my financing company than I do on any education stuff.
Right.
And so when you said that, I was like, oh, this is my guy.
Right.
Like David is my guy. He understands that that's where you should be making the majority of your money. Now you're not quite there yet, but you will get there over time.
That is the plan. Yeah.
You guys are essentially doing factoring to a certain degree.
Yes.
Right. You guys.
Exactly.
The way this works, everybody, from my understanding, David will have to tell me where I'm wrong. Your prime contractor, your student, goes and fulfills on the product. The government does not pay for net 30, net 60.
Usually net 30, but sometimes it's more.
And a student of yours might be 22-year-old kid. Hell, might even be a massage therapist.
Right.
It's like, I just landed a $2.1 million contract. I'm not going to receive my profit for 30, 60, 90 days after I fulfill.
Right.
So you guys are coming in and actually backfilling the financing and taking a portion of that.
Correct.
Incredible.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Incredible. So let's say I'm an investor and I want to deploy capital with you guys. Do you guys bring on investors?
So currently, we have a pretty big finance company doing this for us, but as we expand, we're going to be looking for other options. So if, as an investor, if you want to invest in this, at the moment, we're just taking names and making a list. And as the business expands, we're going to be looking for better, financing options. Eventually, what we want to do is to kind of make it more of a competitive thing where investors can bid on financing different contracts.
Wow, that is incredible. Now, War Dogs Academy, how do people get there?
WarDogsAcademy.com.
Okay, cool. This is very cool. So you've reinvented yourself multiple times. Through the 10 interviews I've watched, I've never really gotten a sense that there was a point of absolute despair from you. I never got that from you. And I don't know if you just don't talk about it because you're more like, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you the story.
Right.
Were there any moments through, the legal battles and the fighting and Ephraim, or even like I might get killed? We're like dealing with people that are mobsters. And was there any moment in there that there was like total despair of like, I just need to end my life, get the hell out of here. I don't know what I'm going to do. Were there those moments?
I've never been suicidal. That's not like my personality, luckily. I feel very grateful for that. As I said, I'm an irrational optimist. So no matter how bad things get, I always hope for something better. But I would say that the lowest point I ever was after I walked out that door and Ephraim, after Ephraim told me, I'm going to give you zero. Because
you didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot. I was running low on money. I had a brand new baby, and that I had to support.
Where was the mother?
We were at the time we were both living in Miami. So
okay, you were together.
Yeah, we were together. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys aren't living together anymore.
Not anymore. No.
Okay, so
we got divorced like when my daughter was 5.
Okay, so you were going through this moment of how am I going to support this girl that I just brought into this world?
Right.
And Ephraim basically gives you this ultimatum like, I'll give you 1% of the company.
Right.
You say no. Okay, I'll give you 0%.
Right.
Right, type of thing.
Yeah.
In that moment, what was he really saying? Was he saying you can stay on the Afghan contract for the 25%? Or was he saying I'm just going to kick you out?
No, he said you get 1% instead of 25%, right? Because he owed me 25%. Right. That was the agreement we came to. And after multiple renegotiations, so this was,
of course,
he said, I'll give you 1% plus a salary, which, wouldn't have been.
That was $100,000 a year.
Yeah, $100,000 a year, and he owed me $5 million, so it was not much.
Yeah, it'd take 50 years for him to pay you.
Exactly. So so he's like, you take 1%, or I'm going to give you nothing. That's pretty much what he said.
So when you walked out the door, what city was this in?
This was in Miami. Okay,
Beach. So you leave. Yeah. You get in your car. What are the thoughts? What are you going through?
I'm thinking, man, I thought. A few hours ago, I thought I was going to be a multimillionaire and set for life in a few months, to a year. And now it looks like I might be bankrupt and I might not be able to pay my rent, in a few months.
You go home and tell were you married at the time?
We hadn't gotten married yet, but yeah.
What's her name?
Sarah.
Okay, so what did you tell Sarah?
I told her, we had a falling out, and it looks like I'm going to have to take this to court, and to get the money that's owed to me. And she was very supportive. She was like, "Yeah, take that motherfucker to court."
I mean, I can't even imagine what she felt about Ephraim, and all the crap that and the stress that he put through your guys' family.
Yeah.
And for her to, was there also within a week or two of leaving, was there a burden, balls and chains that came off of you mentally and physically? You felt like, holy crap, I feel like I can go reinvent myself? Or were you in despair for quite a while?
It took me about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So which for me is a long time. I've seen people have said, 2 weeks is nothing for a depressive episode.
Nothing,
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I've heard people,
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I met a guy the other day, Los Angeles police officer, was in a despair, just pit of despair for 9 years.
Oof, okay. Yeah, that's a whole other level.
9 years.
Yeah,
His wife left him multiple times. He got her back. It's just all that kind of stuff. And I feel like the norm for people is they really can't. It's kind of like the gentleman that was your investor. I feel like he still has these emotions tied with getting screwed.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You have this unbelievable ability to compartmentalize bullshit.
Yeah, that's true.
And go create the next thing.
That's true. Yeah.
And I feel like, so many of the lessons I take away, I'm like, I've done that. There's so many parallels in real estate. There's so many parallels in just business in general of bad partnerships. One of my favorite parts of this story was how you guys get this contract, the Afghan contract, and you guys get access to the ammunition, and you guys get all of this was very tied into who you knew at the time,
right?
Who you were connected to,
right?
And also all of the weird things that go on in business relationships that people will screw you at every single turn. I think the craziest thing that happened out of everything that happened to you was the $20,000 that Ephraim refused to pay your freaking packager.
Right.
That is the craziest bullshit. I've seen so many people screw over somebody over $500.
Right.
And I'm like, do you not see that you'll end up, that relationship and that reputation will compound, and there's a domino effect. I don't know where it's going to show up. It's going to show up.
It's going to cost you a lot more than $500. Yeah.
Were there other things that Ephraim was doing in your guys' relationship where he's burning people left and right besides that packaging person that you were having to clean up the...
I mean, he burned everybody is the truth. Nobody who did business with him was happy with him long term. He always managed to weasel his way out of something. And I think it wasn't just about the money. It was kind of like a way it made him feel powerful.
That was one of my big questions for you today was, what makes that guy tick?
Right.
Is it the power?
Yeah.
Is it the I got something over you?
Yeah.
Is it I won? Because it doesn't seem like that guy's happy.
No, he's miserable. Absolutely. I know that for a fact that he's miserable. Because, I still know people who know him and he's not doing well. I wish him the best. I honestly hope he he heals and becomes better and pays me the $5 million he owes me. And
I know.
I'm not counting on it. I'm not counting on it. But, I do wish that he would become a better person. I don't it's been a long time, I don't really, my emotions have faded, I still don't like him. I still would like the money that he owes me, but I don't think about him except when I'm doing interviews, Did
he end up getting paid?
Oh yeah. He got to keep most of the money.
How in the hell is that possible?
Yeah.
You get not just indicted, but you go to prison. How did they not seize your assets?
So I'll tell you how. The crime that we committed that they charged us with was fraud. Right. And they, when you are sentenced for fraud, you get a sentence to prison or something as a punishment. You also have to pay restitution, and that's the financial penalty. Restitution to the victim, and the restitution is based on how much money the victim lost. And in our case,
they didn't
lose anything. Exactly. They actually would have saved $52 million.
And you fulfilled the contract.
And we fulfilled the contract, and we got paid as the shipments came in. Well, 30 days later, but as the shipments came in.
Did the whole $300 million contract actually get executed?
No, about 60-something million got executed out of all of it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, or 70-something million. I'm losing my numbers.
What would be the profit on that $70 million? How much do you think he actually ended up making on that?
About 20%.
20%. So he walked away with something like 15 million bucks.
Yes, out of that, yeah.
You didn't get paid. Nobody in the office got paid.
No, Ralph didn't get paid. Nobody got paid except for Ephraim.
Okay, so Ephraim, basically, what did he do with the money? Has he just been living on it?
I imagine he put it somewhere overseas. That's what I know he had overseas accounts.
He wanted to protect it from lawsuits and all that.
For lawsuits, yeah. And now, he could have, I know he had a raging gambling and drug and sex addiction, at least before he went to prison. Maybe he's better now, but from what I hear, not really. So maybe he spent a lot of it on that. I don't know how much money he has left. I don't know whether he's made a lot more money in some other deals or lost a lot more money. He's always had a very, very high tolerance for risk. So it wouldn't surprise me if he, took a gamble on some deal and lost a whole bunch of his money.
These kind of guys are the real life monsters that are out there, mingling with people, and these are the true con men, right? The people that have such charisma. I imagine he's a great salesperson.
He's amazing, actually. He's an amazing negotiator. He's very personable. Like when you meet him in person, you like him. Like he's very funny, he's very friendly, he's a great talker, and and he warms you up so he could stab you in the back.
Yes.
And he's very good at it.
Now, do you think he's fully aware of himself, or is he not aware of how big of a piece of shit he is?
I mean, I think he's definitely somewhat aware, but like he definitely doesn't. He thinks that I'm a piece of shit. He doesn't think that I deserve the money.
That's his ego,
like
of course.
Yeah. So
I bet you his justification has got to be, well, I gave David the opportunity. I taught David what I know.
Yeah.
Without me, David, what does David think he deserves this? And he left anyway. He doesn't deserve it. Yeah. I imagine that's all.
That's exactly what he said. And he didn't do that much work, and I could have gotten what he did for a guy who was working $100K a year. I'm like,
but doesn't change the agreement.
I know,
and it doesn't change the fact that you actually did it.
Yeah. So I talked to. I actually did a podcast interview with a guy named Matt Cox. Mm-hmm. He has a podcast called Inside True Crime. Matt Cox was in prison with Ephraim, and he was the ghostwriter for Ephraim's book. And Matt told me actually like about 60% of Ephraim's book was taken from one of the novels that he was writing previously, because Ephraim wanted him to he actually wanted to use that book as a way to sue Warner Brothers. He wasn't actually interested in publishing the book and making it successful. He just wanted to get the book out before the movie came out so he could sue Warner Brothers for stealing his story.
What a lunatic, dude.
So anyway.
So Matt, he wanted to steal their
Yeah.
To say they stole his.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Gosh,
that's exactly right. It's wild. It's wild. Matt wrote a book about his experience about writing the book with Ephraim and how he tried to shake down Warner Brothers. It's called Dude, Where's My Hand Grenade? It's actually a pretty entertaining and interesting read. But anyway, while I was on Matt's podcast, Matt told me, he's like, while we were in prison together, I asked Ephraim, why did you screw over David? And Ephraim told me, he's like, I realized that, in the beginning it made sense to give him a big commission, because I figured, hey, it costs me nothing unless we're successful. And then if, we win the contract, then sure, I'm making money, and if we lose, then don't pay him a penny. But after we won the contract, I realized, I'm going to owe him millions of dollars. And I could have gotten someone else to do this work for less than $100K a year. So, and I already have some other guys in the office who could take over what he's doing now. What do I need this guy for?
Right.
And so that's what he was thinking. And then Matt told me, he's like, and then Ephraim told me about the way he screwed over this other guy. And then this other guy, he was very proud about the sneaky ways he was screwing over all these people. And Matt told him, he's like, Ephraim, you can't just keep on burning all your bridges, man. And he said, and then Ephraim looked at me and he said, Matt, there's a lot of bridges out there. And Matt told me, he's like, and in that moment, I knew that he was going to screw me too, and he did. He screwed him out of them. He screwed Matt out of the money he agreed to pay him for the book that he wrote for him.
The lessons that somebody could take from your story are endless amounts of lessons. Who to partner with, who not to. How to protect yourself. How to document things. How to, pay your suppliers. The distributor, or not the distributor, but the repackaging company in Albania. How that guy got screwed over for $20,000.
Yeah.
Do not screw anybody for any dollar amount. Pay them what they deserve, etc.
It's not worth having enemies.
And you will find people that do that. They just don't have the motivation. Their motivation is, it seems like Ephraim's motivation is not even necessarily money. It's just, do I control everything around me?
That's exactly it.
Do I control everything around me? Somebody must have hurt this kid when he was a little kid, where he felt like he had no control in a situation. And now the rest of his life, he's going to hold one over everybody, make sure I'm in control. And he will do whatever it possibly takes to avoid that pain of not having control. Which is just bonkers to me. And you go off and you go reinvent yourself. You go build these really, really cool things. It is so cool to be able to see how this goes full circle, where instead of you having a bitter mindset about this, you go and create something where you go, you know what? I know a lot about government contracting. Why don't I go help thousands of people go do the same thing? Do you feel like with Elon and Doge coming in and making things more efficient, do you feel like the opportunity of government contracting is going to diminish or get efficient to the point where the margins just aren't there yet? Or does Doge have such way bigger fish to fry right now that what the contract amounts are is not really their focal point?
You know, I mean, the government is famously inefficient, right? And I think we would all benefit if the government was more efficient. Whether they're going about it in an effective way is I guess time will tell, right? Because right now they seem, from what I see in the news, obviously I'm not aware of all the things they're doing. I don't know if anyone is, but from what I see in the news, they're trying to cut down a lot of agencies, right?
Which actually only amplifies the ability, because if you're getting rid of federal workers,
then where are they going to make up the shortfall?
They're going to contract it.
And it's going to be more expensive. So, it may not make things more efficient. It may, but, the jury's still out on that one.
Gosh, I love it. Okay, you just spun that around. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, with your people that are learning how to do this, I think at some point those profit margins are going to go down. But the reality is, if they're letting go of tens of thousands of people every single month for the next year, they're thinking they're going to let go of hundreds of thousands of people. Then when the federal government needs something, they're going to go give it to your prime contractors, your students, just like that security contract. And your 40% margin is actually not astronomical. It's healthy.
No, it's very healthy. I will say that most contracts are not that.
But even 20%. Like
20% is
you're
reasonable.
Arbitraging somebody else's service.
It doesn't take you much work once you win the contract.
And most of what people could probably do government contracting is in their apartment in their underwear.
And most people do.
Like 40% margin, I get that. That's just one example on the higher end. But you would, even if you're making 10% arbitraging somebody else's services at $2 million, you made $250,000. Are you kidding me?
And it's only take you a few hours a month to just do the paperwork. That's all the work that's required. I mean, as long as your subcontractor doesn't mess up, of course.
What does somebody need in order to do that? Can I be a one-man show? Do I need to be a one-man, a dude with an executive assistant? Do I need somebody in my operation that is an operations manager? What should my operation look like?
Well, you could be a one-man show. And Ephraim was a one-man show for like a year before I joined him. And he made $2 million in a year. You do need to do it under a corporate structure. So you do need to register an LLC or an S Corp or something to register, because you can't register as an individual to do business with the government. It does need to be a corporation. But other than that, there aren't many requirements. There are certain advantages that you can get. So there's certain programs in government contracting called set-asides, right? So they have small business set-aside is the most famous one. As far as the government is concerned, small business is like any business that does less than 10 million a year in revenue. So that's small for them. But it does take like the big conglomerates out of the bidding. So, you're not competing against. Actually. It's very helpful, so you're not competing against Walmart or, Lockheed Martin or General Dynamics or anyone like that. So there are that's just one set aside. There's many different set asides. There's set asides for women-owned business, for vet-owned business, disabled veteran-owned businesses, for businesses that are based in socioeconomic disadvantaged areas, like in the rural areas.
So if I based my LLC in one of those areas, and got a UPS store, I could potentially get part of
they
that
do
set
have
aside?
they do have some requirements there. You may actually have to be physically located
Got
there.
it.
Yeah, they
Or
do.
if I am going to choose a partner, I better choose a woman who's a veteran.
Disabled veteran,
A
ideally.
disabled woman veteran.
Yes, that would give you a bunch of advantages. Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
And that's actually kind of cool that they have those set-asides to make sure that you're not getting overran by these big conglomerates.
Yeah.
So it gives opportunity to people that are just starting out.
Correct. And that's the idea. Because the more people, the more competition there is in the marketplace, the better of a deal the government gets. That's the way they see it. So they do like to support new contractors. They make an effort to do that. And they do that with the set-asides, but also the contracting officers, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them do tend to give some extra love and some extra help to new contractors because they want to help people get off the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is there an advantage to me building a relationship with the contract officers? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I go to an office and physically meet them? Is there a barrier through technology?
So you could definitely talk to them on the phone, right? And you can say, "Hey, I'm going to be in your area. We can meet," and we have done that. There are some strict limits about like what you could spend on them because they try to keep, there are rules against bribing people. And so you can't like pay for their like expensive dinner or anything like that. I think you might be able to buy them coffee. I don't remember the exact limitations of the rules, but you could physically meet them. And there is definitely an advantage to building relationships with contracting officers. They're not necessarily supposed to do it, but sometimes if they like a specific contractor, they'll kind of like unofficially give them information.
Of course, yeah.
Like saying, "Hey, there's this new contract coming up. We think
gotta
this
be
is
at this
perfect
price
for you." That's very illegal for them to do.
Got it.
But I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It can happen. It officially shouldn't happen because then they're giving you insider information. But it definitely does happen occasionally. I'm not saying it's has not happened, but they know they're not supposed to do that. But if they really, really like a contractor, so I've had some experience where a contracting officer, they have currently a running contract with someone they've been dealing with for years. And that person is so comfortable getting this contract that they don't really put any extra work. They kind of let it be the back burner. They're not their folk. The contracting officer is sick of these people. They wish they had someone else, right?
Yeah.
So, when they know, hey, there's this brand new contractor in the market who's bidding on this, and they really want this other guy to win, they may give them some extra help. They'll be like, when you submitted your bid, you missed this part of the form, or you didn't supply this document, so, and they'll give you, and they don't have to give you that help, right? If you don't submit the bid properly, then you're out of luck, no matter how much work you did. And that's actually why we hired retired contracting officers in War Dogs Academy to help our students, so they could review our students' bids and make sure they're not doing any of these crucial mistakes. But the contracting officer, if they want someone new to win, they may give them some extra help in that regard.
Is the future of government contracting in danger, or do you think it's going to grow bigger?
Well, historically, it's always grown. A lot of people have talked about reducing the budget. I don't think anyone ever has.
Nobody has.
Yeah.
It's never happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, they've just usually shifted it around. So there may be some parts that go down, but other parts will go up. It's the government tends not to reduce its budget. I mean, look, you don't know the future and anything can happen.
Right.
But as long as we have a government, they're going to need to buy things, and they're going to need to buy goods and services to operate.
Are you doing any government? Do you have the ability to do government contracting for other governments?
I've never done it. I have personally, I've bid on one, it wasn't directly, but it was through an intermediary on a contract with the Nigerian government, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it was legit. Everyone thinks scams when they hear Nigeria,
Of course,
but
yeah.
it was legit. It was actually through a Navy officer in Nigeria that I was back in 2008. I was going to sell them a whole bunch of AK-47s, and then right as soon as that deal was about to go through, the
New York Times,
the New York Times published, and that deal fell apart.
That's too bad. Now, final question. Let's say I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
I did a YouTube interview with somebody yesterday. I did a YouTube live, and this kid comes on. He's very obviously in a closet, like
Okay.
where he was on his laptop. He was in a closet.
Okay.
And you could see the clothes behind him. He says, I need to desperately change my life. I need to get out of this situation I'm in. I'm in other people's housing. This kid, you could tell he grew up just in bad circumstances, but he cared. He really was like, I want to get this done. I want to go, whatever it is, tell me the road to go down and I will just chop down every tree I have to get through that path. And I'm sitting here now thinking about that kid. What keeps a kid that's 20 years old, 21 years old, did not go to college, doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have any sort of licenses or any sort of degree of any sort, nobody there to support him family-wise or otherwise. Maybe he's flipping burgers. What keeps him from being a government contractor?
Nothing keeps him from being a government contractor. We actually have financing options. So he doesn't, even not having the money up front is not an issue. You don't actually need that much money to get started. You need like maybe like $100-200 to register your company. And then the rest of it, I mean, there's a cost to our academy, of course, but we have a financing option for that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
David, this has been awesome, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I do have one new business that I'd like to talk about
let's
before
talk about
we
it.
end it.
Let's do it.
So actually just launched this a month ago. And so while I was, one issue I ran into while creating my products.
Your physical products.
My physical products, yes. The BeatBuddy and InstaFloss and all our other musical products was that we would get, one of the big vectors of sales is YouTube, right? Because these influencers would get our product and they'd use it and they'd do a review, right? And it would get hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of views. And people would discover it that way. A lot of times when people discover a new product, they'll go to YouTube and search for that product and
every
see
time.
Exactly. And
I want to see other people actually using the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
And one thing that now there is some doubt out there about like YouTube reviews, about like people getting paid to do YouTube reviews. They're like, oh, is the product really good, or is this person just getting paid for this? So what people usually do is they have the conversation in the comments section. And people who actually use the product, I used it, it has this issue, has that issue, or people who ask questions in the comments section. So a lot of the conversation that happens about the products happens in the comments section of the YouTube videos. That's what we noticed. So I would always have my social media people always go into the comment section of any review video of our products and respond to them. If people have questions, you respond to the question. If people say something that is not correct, you correct the misinformation, etc. Right? And we've seen quite a large part of our sales funnel come through this, right?
Through the comments.
Through the comments. Well, it
makes sense.
Yeah, it converts people,
Yeah,
moves them along the sale funnel.
It's the nurture. It's like,
Exactly.
okay, whoa, somebody's actually replying to me. This is freaking awesome. Like the fact, if they are replying to me on a comment, imagine what their customer service looks like on the back end.
That, and also sometimes people have a question that is a make it or break it issue about whether they want to buy our product or not. Right. So like, for example, some of our musical products, there were some features that people were requesting that we only built like an update for later. Right. And we're like, oh, that feature you requested is built now, so you can just download a firmware update. So stuff like that is very important for us to be on top of the comments section. And a lot of these review videos, they live there forever on YouTube.
Right.
And some of the oldest ones are the most popular. They have the most views. So they show up at the top of the search list. So you have to, as a social media person,
to stay on top of it.
You have to stay on top of it, which means you have to search for those videos, go into the videos, sort the comments by most recent, respond to all the comments until you've seen comments you've seen before. Go to the next video, and it's very time consuming and you can't really be that timely on it because there's so many YouTube videos, and how often are you going to check these videos?
Yeah, and I would say that most people that have that issue, that problem is they're so busy trying to sell the product to get on the next YouTube video or do the thing and get somebody to interview them or what have you, that they're not paying attention to the wake of comments that they're leaving.
Yeah. And so, of course, if it's your own YouTube videos on your own channel, you get notifications of comments. So it's not a problem. But on other people's, like on influencers'
you
videos,
manually go do that.
You have to manually do it. And it was taking up our social media manager's time. So we built a software program called Comment Compass, commentcompass.com. And you just put in the URL from any YouTube video you want to track, and anytime there's our software scrapes YouTube to get those comments, and it collects it all into a feed. And so you have all the new comments on any video you have in one place that you could access. And we also, of course, we had to build a UI tool, an AI tool into it, so you can sort all the comments. We actually use GPT-4 to sort the comments by questions, negative feedback, positive feedback.
Wow.
And so
I could use this right now.
Yeah, commentcompass.com.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I literally could use that right now.
Awesome.
I'll
look forward to seeing you as one of our customers.
Yeah, legit. That is so cool. I can't believe actually when you think about that, like why has you seem to come up with stuff that's like, why didn't this thing exist beforehand?
I make things when I can't believe that nobody's made it before. That's kind of my philosophy. I'm like, wait a second, I really need this thing and nobody's making this? This can't be that hard to make. Yeah, why is nobody making this? And so then I look into it if it's something like that.
That's crazy, man. You are inspirational from a standpoint of keeping an attitude, reinventing yourself multiple times. It's crazy how well you've done in the face of adversity and all that bullshit. I can't even imagine what other people would have. Most people would have crumbled under the pressure that you went through, and you went and made multiple products that are like, wait, why doesn't that exist?
Yeah.
Dude, you are the guy. I appreciate you.
I
so
appreciate
much.
that. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. By the way, if you guys want to go and watch the interview he did, Soft White Underbelly, I watched it 3 times over the last year. I felt like out of all the interviews he did, he's done one with Iced Coffee Hour, my good friends Graham and Jack. That was a great interview too. But really the one that really doesn't have any questions all the way through is my style of interview I like to watch, where it was just David unfiltered, telling the whole story of the War Dogs movie and where that all, what happened through that whole entire arc. Go check that out. We'll put a link down in the description. We'll also put a link in the description for commentcompass.com. And we'll put a link for wardogsacademy.com down below as well. David, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No doubt.
One of the most common questions I get is, what title company do I use? What title company am I using in Arizona, Atlanta, California, Texas, whatever? The answer for many years was a different title company in every state, because not every state handles transactions the same way. Now, the answer is one title company. It's Creative Title and Escrow. Go to getcreativetitle.com/podcast. You can learn how they will do SubTo deals, seller finance deals, cash transactions, gator deals, double close, transactional lending, whatever, even novation agreements. There's really nothing that Creative Title and Escrow can't do. To learn how brand new investors are using Creative Title all the way up to the biggest players in the industry, head over to getcreativetitle.com/podcast.